everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Louise and I make videos all about my life living with scoliosis and spinal fusion. So this video is all about the topic of spinal fusion and mobility. This is something that I've been asked quite a few times in terms of what is my mobility like post spinal fusion surgery, what's my range of movement like. So I thought I would do a video on this topic, just a bit of background on my scoliosis and my fusion surgery. I do have a video all about my scoliosis story and background, so if you're interested in hearing more detail, then please do check that out. My case of scoliosis was severe. I was diagnosed at 14 and I had a double curvature of over 80 degrees. So I didn't have my fusion surgery until 10 years after I was diagnosed for various reasons. I was monitored in that time, but I had my surgery 10 years later, and that was 12 years ago now. So I've been living with a fused spine for 12 years, so I have a good idea of what it's like and what movements I can do, and I will go through that in more detail shortly. So in my case, I was fused from T3 to L3, which means that most of my spine is fused. I do have a model here, so you can visualize where I'm fused. I'm fused from around about here. So this is the neck, this is the thoracic spine here, and this is the lumbar spine. And I'm fused from around here to around here. So I have these discs here unfused at the bottom, which means that I can bend this part of the spine, but I can't bend the part that's fused. So it's important to know where the fusion is when somebody is explaining about their range of movement, because if somebody is fused all the way down here, which it does happen in some cases of scoliosis, it depends where the curve is. So some people might be fused the whole spine all the way down to the bottom, which will limit the movement different to myself. Also as well, most of the movement of the spine in terms of bending come from the bottom part of the spine. So the more that the bottom part is fused, the more restricted the movements will be. If you just had the top part fused, like the thoracic spine, and you didn't have any of the lumbar spine fused, then there would be a lot less restrictions where movement is concerned. I also need to point out as well that I had my surgery 12 years ago now, so I've got a bit more movement than somebody who's only recently had surgery. If you've recently had surgery, then you will be sore and very stiff, and you're not supposed to do any bending, lifting or twisting for at least 6 to 9 months or so. To be safe, I would probably say 12 months once the spine has fused. So in that time, you will be very limited in terms of movement. If you're in that period of time now, don't worry too much, because obviously you've got healing to do. It took me years, if I'm being completely honest, to be able to do a lot of the movements that I can do now without pain and moving a lot more freely and gaining a lot more flexibility. If you're in the first year of recovery, don't try any of the movements that I do in this video. What I thought I'd do for the main part of this video is to show you some movements in terms of me bending down and twisting and different things like that, so you can see how far I can go and what my movement is like. So in this clip you can see that I'm bending forwards. That's about as far as I can go, and I tend to have my knees bent a little bit as well. And this is another angle. You can see that I'm bending from the waist, so using the unfused part of my spine and my waist to bend forwards. And this is me looking behind me. I can't actually twist my spine, so I tend to twist using my hips, and this is how I would pick something off the floor. I tend to squat and bend my knees to pick things up, and this is how I would do a side bend. I find that one side it's a lot easier. This side is a little bit more difficult for me. I've got less motion. And this is how I would sit up from lying down. I have to roll. And this is how far I can touch my toes, although I will have to bend my knees quite a lot. And again, this is twisting. There is some restrictions on one side more than the other. And if I want to put on shoes or paint my toenails, this is how I would do it. Another question I get asked quite a lot is, how does it feel with a spinal fusion? I think it'll be different for everybody who has scoliosis and a spinal fusion, but for me personally, it feels stiff quite a lot of the time. But I feel like I'm so used to it now that it doesn't really bother me or affect me really. When I first had my surgery, I remember explaining it like it felt like somebody had strapped a wooden board to my back and I felt like unnaturally straight and stiff. Now I feel like I still feel stiff, but because it's been 12 years, it's just normal to me. I think it would feel really weird to go back to not having a fused spine just to see what it feels like, because I literally can't remember. I feel like the cold weather makes it feel worse. I get a lot more stiffness in the winter. But generally, yeah, it does feel stiff. It feels uncomfortable. But then on the other side of things, I do feel supported. So I feel like I can sit up for quite a long time without back support because I'm internally supported. And I do like that feeling. So I can sit on a stool or a backless bench or chair, and it doesn't feel uncomfortable because I have that internal support. So I hope that you found this video useful. If you have any questions or you would like me to do another video on this topic, or if you have any comments that you'd like to make about this topic, then please leave me a comment below, as I would love to hear from you. And if you found this video interesting, then please consider subscribing because it really helps me out a lot. And just remember as well that these are my own experiences. I'm not a doctor. So if you have any concerns about anything that I've mentioned in this video in terms of flexibility, range of movement following scoliosis surgery or spinal fusion surgery, then please do check with your doctor or scoliosis specialist. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.